Hello everyone, welcome back to Believer Science Academy, Bengaluru. This is the daily news analysis. So, in today's news analysis, we will discuss important articles from UPSC prelims, mains, as well as interview perspective. So, today's first article for the day is about the recent Bilaspur train crash. So, the report has been in, and the reason behind the crash has been identified. So, red signal breach exposes systematic gaps in railway safety. So, on November 4, 2025, a tragic train collision near Bilaspur, Chhattisgarh claimed 11 lives and left several injured. This incident involved a mainline electric multiple unit passenger train, that is MEMU train, colliding with a goods train on the same track. Preliminary investigations have classified the incident as a signal passed at danger, one of the most serious infiltrations or infractions in the railway operations. See, it is simple. So there was a signal that they had to wait for one train to cross. But what happened was the train pilot was unable to identify the signal and he crossed it. As a result, it led to accident and death of 11 people. So the key findings of the probe was the fact-finding committee comprising senior railway officials from multiple departments concluded that the loco crew crossed a red signal without authorization. Okay, so because of their ignorance, people had to lose lives. Passenger train rammed into the rear brake van of a stationary freight train. The loco pilot, Vidya Sagar, died on the spot, while the assistant loco pilot remains critically injured and unfit to give any statement. So visibility issues due to the curve alignment and intense sunlight may have contributed to the signal misadjustment, but very highly unlikely because this is not the first time they have been riding this or they have been traveling in this train, so they must be aware of the signals which are present at a particular crossings. Next, All India Loco Running Staff Association pointed out that the signal positioning and multiple track layouts in the section often create confusion under poor visibility conditions. Again, okay, let us not discuss about it. Then technical and operational context. The train number 68733 Gavera Road Bilaspur Memo had two crew members, an exception since Memo services usually have only one pilot. The second pilot was on board as the main pilot had not cleared the aptitude test, raising questions on the crew competency and management of the training protocol. Again, serious malpractices have been conducted here, practiced here. That is, like seriously, they have not even cleared the aptitude test. And how was he even allowed to travel in a train? How was he even allowed to pilot a train? Legal and regulatory framework is section 161 of 304A of Indian Penal Code, which talks about negligence causing death or endangering safety of those. This is what the negligence of the pilot led to. Not only his death, not only injuring of co-pilot, but also the death of 11 people. Sections 137 and 151 of Indian Railways Act 1989 deals with acts endangering safety and rash or negligent operations. So this case also falls under the railway safety rules and railway accident manual, which require mandatory investigation by the Commission of Railway Safety. So this is about the current accident, but what is the broader concern? The broader concern with respect to safety with regard to railways is that human errors remain the leading cause of SPED cases, according to accounting for nearly 75% of the train accidents in India. Next is Kavach, that is train collision avoidance system, already operational on several routes, was not yet deployed in this section of the Southeast Central Railway. The incident underscores the urgent need for complete Kavach coverage, enhanced crew training, and ergonomic redesign of signals on curved tracks. Okay, so these are some of the major issues, and the way forward should be accelerating Kavach implementation throughout India on all busy routes to automate braking in SPD cases, and then improve signal visibility through LED parts, panels, sun visors, and reorientation in the curved zones, and regular psychological and aptitude testing of the loco pilots with adequate rest periods as well. Okay, even the pilots need some sort of rest, so they should be psychologically, mentally, and physically fit as well. So they should be provided some rest. Independent safety audits and accountability mechanisms for zones with recurring SPAD incidents. Okay, so this is about accident. Second one is about India's space achievement, that is Aditya L1 gets a close look at solar eruptions, India's first spectroscopic study of CME near Sun. What is CME? CME is nothing but coronal mass ejection. That is, these are the some of the ejections or eruptions that happen from the surface of Sun. The context is India's Aditya L1 mission, which was launched on September 2, 2023, has achieved a major milestone. Using the visible emission line coronagraph, that is VELC payload, scientists from the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, in collaboration with NASA, have recorded the first ever spectroscopic observations of a coronal mass ejection in the visible wavelength range, which is very close to the sun's surface. Next is about the mission. Aditya L1 is India's first dedicated solar observatory mission, which is positioned at the Lagrange points. The Lagrange point is the points around two heavy masses where the equivalent mass will be zero. That is, the mass of each individual cancel out, so that at that particular point, anything which is positioned stays intact. Okay, which will not be absorbed by both the masses. So there will be 5 Lagrange points, and L1 is more suitable for observing the sun all the time. From this vantage point, the spacecraft can observe the sun continuously for 24 hours, as sun never sets at L1. It carries 7 payloads designed to study the solar corona, solar wind, magnetic fields, and particle dynamics. Okay. Next is key payload involved in this one is visible emission line coronagraph, that is VELC, which was developed by Indian Institute of Astrophysics, Bengaluru. VELC is the primary scientific instrument aboard Aditya L1. It can image and perform spectroscopy of the solar corona, the outermost part of sun's atmosphere, where the coronal mass ejections originate. VELC's high resolution enables continuous monitoring of solar activity and detection of early stage CMEs. And the major findings is electron density, that is CME observed had about 370 million electrons per cubic centimeter. That is how significant, or that is how energy dense or electron dense this mass ejection was. The normal corona near the sun has only around 10 to 100 million electrons per centimeter cube or cubic centimeters, which is almost triple or 4 times higher than this one. And the energy is estimated at 9.4 into 10 raised to 21 joules, roughly equivalent to the energy released by billions of atomic bombs. That is how dangerous coronal mass ejections are. Okay, billions of atomic bombs will not be even equated to this 9.4 into 10 raised to 21 joules. This was observed by our Aditya L1 mission. Mass approximately 270 million tons compared to the 1.5 million ton iceberg that sank the Titanic. Okay, just 1.5 million iceberg was able to sank the Titanic. Now compare this to 270 million tons. If at all the energy or the mass of this coronal mass ejection, if at all happens to hit Earth, then Earth will be completely shattered to its core. Next is speed. Initial CME speed was recorded at 264 km per second, and the temperatures were measured at 1.8 million Kelvin. So what is the significance of this particular discovery? Scientific significance. The first time measurement of CME parameters this close to the sun in the visible light helps in understanding how much mass and energy sun loses during the CMEs, and provides crucial data for space weather forecasting, which impact the satellite communication, navigation systems, and astronaut safety. Okay. Next, it aids in developing predictive models for geomagnetic storms caused by solar eruptions. So the broader context is the sun is entering the maximum phase of solar cycle 25, leading to increased CME frequency and solar flares. With ELC now fully operational, Aditya L1 is expected to capture more energetic solar eruptions, enriching our understanding of solar terrestrial interactions. Okay, very important discovery by Aditya L1 mission. Next, AI 171 crash and crisis of transparency in Indian aviation system. That is Air India flight 171 Boeing 787 Dreamliner crashed on June 12, 2025, shortly after takeoff from the Ahmedabad, Gujarat, which resulted in killing 241 passengers except one person and 19 people on the ground, leaving only one survivor. It marked the first ever crash of Boeing 787 since its global induction in 2011, shaking public confidence in India's civil aviation safety mechanisms. Okay, next, so the accident and the immediate investigation. The Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, that is AAIB, recovered both flight data recorders and CVR by June 16, 2025. Preliminary report was released on July 12, 2025, but it was very inconclusive, offering limited data and generating more speculations than the clarity itself. Next was data downloaded by June 25 confirmed a dual engine shutdowns within seconds after liftoff, which is an extremely rare event in the modern aviation. Just seconds after the liftoff. Next, the key technical aspects, that is from the preliminary findings, what we were able to find out that the co-pilot was the pilot flying while the captain acted as pilot monitoring. During the takeoff, fuel control switches for both engines transitioned to cut-off positions within 2 seconds, starving the engines of fuels. So this is the preliminary findings, that is fuel control switches, and it was considered as a mistake of pilot. As a result, the pilots of this flight were heavily criticized, and their parents were also suffering from this particular guilt. So recently Supreme Court said that it is not the result of the pilots, it is not the result of your sons that the aircraft crashed. So you don't need to feel the guilt, you don't need to carry the burden of killing 248 people. So that is what the Supreme Court said in the recent case as well. So this movement could only occur manually, not due to any electrical or software failure. So according to the preliminary findings, everything indicated that this was manual failure done by these two pilots. But CVR data indicated possible cockpit confusion with an ambiguous line. Why did you do that? I did not do that. So this was what you were able to record from CVR data. And standard cockpit protocol mandates that during an emergency, the captain takes over the control with the clear call outs, that is, my controls, your controls. Whether these were made remains unverified in the report. So again, everything indicates that this was a manual mishap which resulted in death of 260 odd people. And transparency concerns, that is, the Ministry of Civil Aviation promised a transparent investigation, yet the final report remains unreleased months after the incident. So the Ministry of Home Affairs issued an unusual order giving X-category commando protection to the AAIB chief, citing unspecified threat perception. That is, if we are going to release this documents, or if we are going to release these findings, it will result in threat to the AAIB chief. That is what the Ministry of Home Affairs deemed, and such protection for an accident investigation or investigator is unprecedented worldwide, raising further questions about political and intelligence sensitivity surrounding this case. So many people believe that there is a political connection surrounding this issue. As a result, government is so heavily involved, and as a result, the government is not willing to release all the documents. In contrast, the US National Transportation Safety Board and the UK Air Accidents Investigation Branch issued daily briefings after the major accidents, ensuring public trust and data credibility, which is missing in current context. Both the public trust and the data credibility are reducing in India at the moment. So, institutional and legal framework with respect to aircraft crashes is AAIB was created under the Aircraft Investigation of Accidents and Incidents Rules of 2012, deriving the authority from Aircrafts Act of 1934 and IOCO Annexure 13, that is the Chicago Convention which deals with aircraft accidents. These regulations require a preliminary report within 30 days, a final report within 12 months unless justified delays are publicly notified. India's repeated failures to meet this ICAO mandated transparency norms risks lowering global confidence in its aviation safety governance. Okay, so the issues highlighted under this editorial is opaque investigation process undermining the public trust, and possible procedural violations in cockpit management and handover during the emergencies, and delay in data release enabling misinformation and YouTube conspiracy narratives. Okay, so everything, all these things are issues highlighted, and safety culture deficit, that is where institutional secrecy trumps accountability. So in the global comparisons, I already discussed about this one. The implications of this one is the erosion of public and pilot confidence in the aviation regulatory framework, potential stress among the flight crews, fearing recurrence due to unclear cause attrition or attribution, and international image damage, particularly for India's growing aviation market and airline expansion. And then the risk of ICAO audit downgrades affecting international code share agreements. Okay, so the government has to come forward and be very transparent with respect to these things. So what should be the way forward? Way forward should be immediate release of CVR and FDR analysis in line with global norms, and established independent accident review board insulated from ministerial control, institutionalized transparency, that is mandatory press briefings within 48 hours of major accidents, and then integrate crew resource management and emergency takeover procedures in all simulator checks as well. And finally, amend the aircraft rules 2012 to prescribe penalties for delay or non-publication of reports beyond the ICAO deadlines, that is 30 days. So this should be the way forward. So that is a very important article. Next, why a socialist won the world's financial capital? The Zohran Mamdani's victory. Recently, I made a video on who was Zohran Mamdani and how did he win in New York. If you want to see more about that, you can go and check the topic of that video. Today, we will discuss how he won in this particular New York. In a historic political shift, Zohran Mamdani, a democratic socialist of Indian Ugandan origin, has been elected as the youngest mayor of New York City in over a century, defeating Andrew Cuomo, an independent backed by the Wall Street and billionaire donors. Mamdani's victory marks the rise of welfare state politics in the heart of global capitalism. Where did they win? He won in New York. What is New York? New York is the commercial capital of USA. What does USA stands for? USA stands for capitalist ideals. So, in the heart of the capitalist ideals, a democratic socialist has won. That is why this becomes very important. So, background and identity. I already discussed thoroughly about this one. He is 34 years of age, born in Uganda to Indian parents and raised in USA. A democratic socialist associated with progressive wing of the Democratic Party, and ideologies advocates for economic justice, social welfare, and inclusive governance. Symbolism is his win signifies both a generational and democratic transformation in New York's electorate from elite dominance to grassroots populism. Key promises and the policy agenda was Mamdani's platform focuses on universal access, affordability, and redistribution, including rent freezes and public housing expansion, public grocery stores to tackle the food security, and universal child care and fare-free public buses, and increased taxation on corporations and millionaires to fund welfare schemes. So these are the important promises by the Mamdani, which made sure that he won this one. So this particular measures reflect a Scandinavian style. The Scandinavian, all these Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Iceland, all these Scandinavian countries, which are at the top of all kinds of indexes, be it happiness index, be it development index, be it all kind of index. Okay. Next, adopted for the US urban context. Economic and social shift behind the mandate is there is a structural change in the employment. That is, in the sectors finance, insurance, investment, share is now greater than 16%, which was earlier 13%. Education, health and social assistance was earlier for 30% and now only 40%. So, the shrinking financial sector and expanding service or labor sectors have altered the city's class composition. That is, more money spending sectors are increasing, but money gaining sectors excuse me, are on the low. So, have altered the city's class composition, empowering lower and middle income workers who resonated with Mamdani's message of free distribution and welfare. And then the democratic transformation, that is, nearly 1 in 4 New Yorker is foreign born, which helped Mamdani secure this victory. This diverse working class immigrant communities form the city's electoral base. Mamdani's immigrant identity and inclusive rhetoric found strong resonance among these groups. Next, rising cost of living. In housing, there was 68% rise from the financial year 12 to 2022, and in transportation, 56% rise, and compared to the national average of 14.5% rise. In the food, 56% rise compared to national average of 46.4% rise. So only New York and San Francisco saw greater than 55% increase in all the three essential expenses: housing, food, transportation. These are the very basic things that a worker or an individual or a citizen needs. Okay, so fuel in discontent and call for economic relief policies. And the voting behavioral class geography. So Brooklyn, Manhattan, not necessary for us. And NYT analysis is 50% of 57% of the voters in renter heavy precinct supported Mamdani. 62% public transport commuters backed him. Homeowners and car commuters preferred Cuomo. Okay, obviously homeowners and car commuters who have their own their own transportation and their own homes. They wanted person who was backed by the billionaires to win. But the people who do not have any homes, people who travel by the public transport, voted for Mamdani. Interpretation is economic status and the commuting patterns directly shaped the class aligned voting. And then the political and symbolic significance is it marks a leftward turn in the urban politics of USA from the corporate eccentricism to grassroots socialism. It demonstrates decline of the elite political dominance as symbolized by the former mayor Michael Bloomberg and Cuomo's political dynasty, and then indicates that global financial hubs are not immune to populist and redistributive politics, especially amid widening inequality. Obviously, not like New York is the largest city in the world. It is one of the most commercially dominant city of USA and in the world itself, and most number of billionaires are present in New York. Even then, the normal populist measures of the smaller urban cities will work in these kind of cities as well, because it is not only filled by the billionaires, it is also found by normal workers, normal day-to-day earners. So they want policies which resonate with themselves. That is, this is the proof. That is the Zoran Mamdani's victory in New York is a proof of this one. It sets a precedent for progressive urbanism, blending fiscal pragmatism with social inequality. And implications for India and the world is Mamdani's Indian origin and Muslim background enhances the visibility of South Asian diaspora leadership in the Western democracies, and the global left resurgence, or that is, the reflects a broader post-pandemic shift towards welfare politics seen in movements like Labour's revival in the UK, Sanders-style progressivism in the USA. And the policy influence is that could inspire discussions on the public service delivery, urban housing, and tax equity even in the emerging economies. So there was also an editorial today that the opposition of India can learn from Mamdani on these issues. That the opposition of India should focus on these things rather than focusing on the caste, creed, religion, etc. If you are focusing on the real life issues, then you could bring changes similar to Zoran Mamdani. If you are not able to bring the changes, at least you will be able to come to a position where you can take decisions, that is, win the elections. That is what another editorial discussed about. Next, Prince pointers, Fujian aircraft carrier, China's leap in naval projection. So recently, after years of sea trials and testing, People's Liberation Army Navy inducted Fujian aircraft carrier, marking a major technological leap in China's maritime capabilities. The induction signifies China's transition from regional to a potential blue water naval power capable of projecting force across the Indo-Pacific. About Fujian aircraft type, name is Fujian Type 003, commissioned in 2025, builder Shanghai Jianggan Shipyard. People's Liberation Army Navy, significance is third Chinese carrier after Liaoning and Shandong. First fully indigenously designed and built aircraft carrier, marking a major milestone in Chinese shipbuilding economy. Gives China the second largest aircraft carrier fleet globally after the US Navy. US has 11 carriers. India has only one carrier at the moment, but one more is on the rise. Next, key features is first Chinese carrier with electromagnetic catapult launch system. That is very important. EMAS enables the launch of heavier, fully armed aircraft. India has so many, like India has two at the moment or one at the moment, but that doesn't have this EMALS. Next, aircraft capacity, estimated 40 to 60 aircrafts can be carried on this aircraft carrier compared to 60-70 on the US aircraft carriers. Displacement over 80,000 tons full load, and propulsion conventional, that is non-nuclear, limiting the endurance and range, one of the major or minor drawback of this particular Fujian. Operational range estimated 8,000 to 10,000 nautical miles, and the flat deck design optimized for high sortie rates. And aircraft elevators, 2, that is US Ford class carriers have 3. Catapults, 3 AMRS, Ford class has 4. Just a comparison with respect to USA and China. Strategic significance for China is it increases the blue water capability and then provides technological milestone. The AMRS system puts China in an elite group. Only the USA and China currently deploy this technology. Not even the Russia, not even India deploys these technologies, and not even any European powers. And the force projection allows launch of early warning and control aircraft, AVAC, and maritime rivalry, enhances China's deterrence and the presence in Taiwan Strait, South China Sea, and Western Pacific, directly impacting India's and USA's Indo-Pacific strategies. Next, Pipawara relics of Lord Buddha, repatriation and re-enshrinement in Bhutan. So a portion of holy Pipawara relics of Lord Buddha were recently repatriated from abroad, were enshrined at Thimphu's Thanchindong Monastery, Bhutan, which is one of the country's most sacred and politically significant sites. The relics were brought from India as part of cultural and spiritual diplomacy initiative, highlighting the civilizational connect between India and Bhutan. About the Pipara relics, the Piprava relics refer to the set of sacred bone fragments and artifacts which are believed to belong to Lord Buddha himself. Discovered in 1898, the Piprava Stupa in Siddharthanagar district of Uttar Pradesh near the Indo-Nepal border, the site is identified with ancient Kapilavastu, which was the homeland of Gautama Buddha. It was unearthed by William Claxton Pepe, a British engineer, during an excavation on his estate in 1898. The findings included bone fragments believed to be of Lord Buddha, crystal reliquaries, gold ornaments, gems, and sandstone coffer, and Brahmi inscriptions on the casket mentioned that the relics were enshrined by the members of Sakya clan, directly linking them to Buddha's own community. Estimated date was around 3rd century BCE, around the Mauryan period, when Emperor Ashoka was believed to have redistributed Buddha's relics across the stupas in the Indian subcontinent. Next, colonial custody and repatriation. Under the Indian Treasure Trove Act of 1878, the British Crown claimed the ownership of the find, and the bone relics and the ash were gifted to King Chulalongkorn of Siam, that is Thailand. About 1,800 gems were transferred to the Indian Museum, Kolkata, while the Pepe family retained a small portion. Between 1971 and 77, further excavations by Archaeological Survey of India revealed additional seated caskets containing 22 more sacred relics, now which are housed in National Museum, New Delhi. Okay, very significant from cultural level. So recent developments is a portion of relics privately held by Pepe family was auctioned in Hong Kong in May 2025. Through a joint effort by the Government of India and Godrej Industries Group, the relics were successfully repatriated to India, where they won in the auctions and classified as AAA antiquities under the Antiquities and Art Treasurers Act of 1972. These relics cannot be sold or exported from India anymore. The relics were enshrined and at Tashtingodong Monastery in Thimphu, symbolizing deep cultural ties between India and Bhutan and reaffirming India's role as custodian of heritage. So it increases cultural heritage, cultural diplomacy between India and Bhutan, religious importance for both India and Bhutan, archaeological value, which offers key insights into early Buddhist art and the Mauryan period, and heritage protection. So this is very important. Next, a practice question for you from the previous year question. The question is, with reference to India's Aditya L1 mission, consider the following statements. The visible emission line coronagraph aboard with Aditya L1 is designated to study sun's corona in the visible wavelength. Aditya L1 is positioned at Earth L2 Lagrange points to enable continuous observation of solar flares. The mission enables measurement of coronal mass ejections very close to sun's visible surface for the first time by an Indian instrument. So I already explained this one. So just pause the video and write your answer in the comment box. Which of the following statements are correct? 1 and 2 only, 2 only, 1 and 3 only, and 1, 2, 3. So write down the correct answer. And if you like the video, then please hit the like button, comment on it, and also share with your friends. And if you're new to the channel, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button and click on the bell icon so that you don't miss any notification. With this, I will end the video. Jai Hind, Jai Karnataka.